Hello, Duke fans, and welcome to episode 305 of the Duke Basketball Report podcast. We are recording on, we'll just tell you right out, we're recording on Tuesday, April 6, 2021, right after we recorded episode 304, which we put out yesterday. Today, when you're listening to it, at the earliest that you could be listening to it, I believe, is on Wednesday, April 7th. But as we have teased this episode prior to this week, we have an interview coming to you today with Paolo Banchero. He is Duke's top-rated recruit who is joining the team next season. We talked to him last week, but before we get to that interview, I am Sam Klein. I am your host. I am joined by Jason Evans and Donald Wine. Guys, I don't have to ask you how you're doing because we just did this on the previous episode. But Jason, any last words before I send it over to the Paolo Banchero interview?
No, I'm really excited for folks to hear this and for us to do more recruiting stuff. You guys know me; I am the recruiting guru, and I'm excited for the off season and for Duke to get involved in heavily recruiting some of these both the guys who are coming for 2021 and get moving on to 2022.
Yes, as we mentioned on an episode recently, and we still have the survey up, but as we mentioned, one of the things that we're learning from the survey, which you can access at tinyurl.com/DBR podcast survey, is that recruiting is one of the top things that folks want to hear more of from us. So we're going to get to more of that. We're going to do our best. Donald Wine is also here. Donald, you're still in Boston, down the street from me. What's up, man?
So I want people out there to check me if I'm incorrect on this, but I believe this is the first commit that we have had on the show since Justin Robinson committed, and we interviewed him based on Jason meeting him and his dad at a Topgolf event years ago. So we've interviewed guys as they get to campus, but I'm pretty sure this is only the second recruit that we have interviewed after they've committed, but before they reach Duke's campus.
And far and away, the highest rated recruit that we have had on the show.
Actually, Donald, that's not true because I've attended McDonald's All-American Game media days.
That's true. Yes.
Right. And it wasn't an extensive interview. Let's be clear. What we're about to bring you is very different. But I have spoken to Matthew Hurt and Wendell Moore and RJ Barrett and Zion Williamson and Cam Reddish prior to them, and Trey Jones prior to them arriving at Duke, just at the McDonald's All-American practice stuff.
Yeah, good call. But this is an exclusive. Ain't nobody got what we got. So that was a big room of people, but this is an exclusive. We like exclusives.
Yeah.
All right. We have teased it enough, folks. We're going to play the music, and we will be joined right after this by Duke's incoming 5-star recruit, the number 3 player in the class of 2021, power forward Paolo Banchero. All right, Duke fans, we are now joined by Paolo Banchero. He is the number 3 consensus recruit on 247sports.com. He is the top-rated guy coming to Durham this coming fall, to play men's basketball for Duke. We are very excited to have him. Paolo, thank you for joining us on the DBR podcast, and welcome.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. It's good to talk to some Duke fans, some Duke fanatics, so it's good.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of our listeners are going to be excited to hear from you. We've seen a lot of tape. We've heard a lot about you coming into your senior season. You've been committed to Duke now for a few months, so people have been getting excited about that. We are coming off a season, maybe not the best season in recent Duke memory, but one in which Duke featured a really versatile power forward in Matthew Hurt, and we don't know officially what he's doing coming next season, but we know that you're coming in and that you have been billed as a very versatile power forward, a guy that can play both inside and out. Can you tell us a little bit about your game and what you've been working on this season?
Yeah, my game has always been versatile. I was taught the fundamentals of the game, at a young age. My mom playing in the WNBA, being a basketball coach. That was the first thing she taught me how to do, was use my left hand, use the backboard, stuff like that, throw bounce passes. So my game's never been super flashy. I kind of developed that later on, but, I've always been fundamentally sound, real versatile. I wasn't always the tallest player. I kind of grew late. So perimeter skills and stuff, I was all, as I was younger playing, I'm more on the perimeter instead of now, being 6'10", more of a forward. And yeah, just being versatile, being a team player, not being one-dimensional. not being a player who can only score, but can, get others involved, and also bringing on the defensive end too. I think I'm a real good defender. And yeah.
Are there players either at Duke or in the NBA that you have modeled some of your game after or taken some tips from?
Yeah, there's a lot of players. I've been, always been a student of the game. So I love watching highlights. I love watching film. I love watching, just looking at stats and stuff like that. There's never been one specific player who I've kind of molded my game after. It's always just been like taking pieces from kind of whoever I see, honestly. Like if I see a player do a move that I think I could use, I try and add that to my game. But some common players I do watch a lot is like Carmelo. Watch a lot of LeBron, Jason Tatum. I like Anthony Davis, just tall, versatile forwards. I think I fall in that category, but I also think I'm unique in my own way. So
Duke fans are very happy.
Sam,
go ahead.
I've got no problem if Paolo happens to be as good as those guys. I think that's perfectly fine.
Yeah, I was going to say Duke fans only have fond memories of Jason Tatum in his 1 year in a Duke uniform. So if that's how it turns out for you, Paolo, that would be fantastic. I got one more question about you sort of coming into the season. How did you spend your time during the pandemic? I know that high school seasons were all disrupted in different ways throughout the country. So how were you able to stay engaged with the game and grow during this season during the last year that was so unpredictable?
Yeah, so we played in the state championship on a Saturday night, and we got let out of school for the COVID virus on the following, I think, Monday or Tuesday. So we had just finished our season right when it all hit and everything started getting canceled and shut down. But luckily, unlike most people, I had a gym I could get into from the jump. So from that point on, like from that Tuesday until now, like I've been in the gym every day in the same gym, working out, working on my game. And just from looking back, it was like this time last year was when I first started getting in the gym during the pandemic, and just seeing how much better I've gotten from my junior season to now. It's been crazy just seeing, all the work I put in. It really, shows that, you put in the work, it's going to show.
Have you been in touch with the Duke staff at all about things that you should be working on before you head to Durham?
Yeah, no, they always, that's part of the reason why I came to Duke, because while they was recruiting me, even before I was committed, they was giving me pointers and giving me advice and telling me what I could work on or what I was looking good at, but what I could do better at. But to be specific, working on my ball handling, working on my shooting, which I really, really worked on. Those two things was the emphasis, I would say, coming in during this pandemic, was ball handling and shooting. And then Coach K, just telling me to try and play against smaller guards when I can, if I can, when I'm in the gym, because I work out with other people. So trying to guard smaller guards, trying to bring the ball up the court against smaller guards, just so I get used to that. Because in college, I'm going to have the ball in my hands, and there might be times where I switch and stuff like that. So just being able to operate with whoever guarding me.
Paolo, I'm going to jump in now, and I want to talk to you a little bit about your recruitment specifically. You mentioned talking to Coach K. What was it that sold you on Duke? Take us through the decision process there, because look, you were a guy, you could have gone to any program in the country. We think you made the right choice. How do you know? How'd you know Duke was the right choice?
Yeah, no, my recruitment, it was hard. Growing up, I always dreamed of being recruited like the way I was. It was surreal. And for a long, long time, it was like dead even between like 4 schools, I would say. Like I literally couldn't like pick which school I wanted to go to.
Can I ask which 4 they were?
Yeah, it was Tennessee, Gonzaga, Kentucky, and Duke was the 4 that I just couldn't even choose from for the longest time. And then towards the summer, I would say when the NBA bubble started, Coach K would text me during the games. He was texting me every day. He was the only head coach who would text me every single day. And we would talk. He would talk about the games that was being played, he would just analyze the game with me, and we would just talk about the game that's going on. If anybody followed me on Twitter, that's just really all I do is just talk basketball. So me and Coach K would just talk basketball. And then during that time also, they had just really like started just kind of pushing, just really like letting me know how much they wanted me, how much they wanted to coach me, wanted me to come there. Coach K would tell me, I'm a pro regardless of where I go. But he felt like, with me being in his hands, I could be the best pro if I went to Duke. So just hearing that and talking with the rest of the staff, they ended up separating themselves.
We sometimes hear that Coach K is sort of the closer, that there are guys on his staff who sort of take the lead initially on recruiting. And then when it comes time to get the commitment, Coach K is the guy who comes in. Who are the other guys who are involved in your recruitment, and did it work that way for you?
Yeah, Coach Shire was the main one. That was the one who would text me from day one. I would say that's the coach who I'm the closest to. I'm on the staff, but I have good relationships with all the coaches. Coach Carwell talks to my mom all the time. My mom and Coach Carwell have a real good relationship. Coach Nolan Smith, me and him talk often too. Coach Nate James, all the coaches. But Coach Shire was the main coach. And yeah, Coach, to answer your question, Coach K, it was kind of like that. Like I said, when the bubble rolled around, like I said, he was texting me every day. No other head coaches was texting me every day. And yeah, he definitely got. That's funny that you say that, because that's how it happened.
Yeah, the rumors are true then. Hey, I want to ask a little bit about another recruiting topic, which is there are some other guys out there that Duke is interested in. Do you communicate very much with other, top tier players? You talking to Trevor Keels? You talking to Patrick Baldwin? Trying to bring in a super class here to Duke?
Yeah, Trevor is. If you guys probably know, Trevor commits on Sunday.
Yep.
So me, I've been texting him a lot. We was just on the live video together. What was that? Monday. We was on live together on Monday. So I'm just trying to say my little last piece, put my little last word, and he knows where he's going already. So hopefully it's us. And yeah, we'll see Sunday. And then I'll be texting Patrick all the time as well, trying to, put my little piece in, but not try and bug him, because obviously I've been through that process, and, you don't want to be bugged. But, just trying to tell him, hey, we could be special and things like that.
Last question I have about recruiting. Well, was it fun or was it a burden? I mean, you talk about not wanting to bug a guy. You probably had dozens upon dozens of coaches and then hundreds of fans and journalists and the such. Once it was all behind you, did you miss it, or were you thrilled to be done with that craziness?
No, it's so at first, when you got the date when you're a sophomore, when you're going into your junior, you got the date where the coaches can finally reach out to you on the phone and stuff. And so that first night, I remember Baylor called me at midnight, and I heard from Baylor at midnight. And then that whole day I was hearing from everybody. I heard from Duke. I heard from like 40 something schools, probably 50 schools. Offers roll in, stuff like that. So that's the most exciting. But definitely towards like this past summer, it was definitely starting to get a little stressful. Just when I had it narrowed down, like I said, to those 4 schools, I knew I was getting closer, but I couldn't decide. But once Duke separated themselves and I chose Duke, it was definitely a relief having that off your back.
Yeah, and we're thrilled at the decision you made.
So, Paolo, I want to shift to Duke and this team specifically. Obviously, this year for us was a difficult season. We weren't in the NCAA tournament. We're hoping to start another streak next year when you're on campus. Did you keep in touch with any of the current Duke players and throughout the season, just kind of talk to them? Because I know it's been difficult for them to navigate. I know it was difficult for you to also navigate your path as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was already pretty close with DJ and Jalen Johnson on the high school scene. We were cool. I would say those two and Mark Williams was probably the most common ones that I talked to. But I've talked to Jeremy before. I've talked to Henry. So yeah, those 5 I've all talked to. I've talked to Matt and Joey too. Matt Hurd and Joey Baker. But I would say the closest I was with was DJ and Mark.
And speaking of Mark, Mark, we all were really proud of just the tremendous effort that he showed in improving from the start of the season till
when we got to the point where he was a bona fide star towards the end of the season. How much are you looking forward to playing together with him, and how do you think your games will coincide on the court?
Yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to it. I knew Mark was a beast. I just knew it was just a matter of time before he got his feet under him. I played against him on the AAU circuit, saw him multiple times on the AAU circuit, and he was a monster. So, that wasn't even surprising, seeing what he was doing. It was just a matter of time. And yeah, next year, I got, I'm nothing but excited, because with a big body like him, he's 7'1", super long, super active, can move better than a lot of people think. He understands the game too, knows how to play. Us two in the front court, I think, it's going to be a problem for a lot of teams.
And also for just next year, you talked about how you would play with them. What is your expectation for your role next year? Are you ready to walk in and hopefully compete for a starting job? Do you have any expectations, or just how do you use that to kind of elevate your game to what is going to be necessary on the college level?
Yeah, no, I definitely, expect myself to play well. I trust the coaches, trust Coach K, trust everybody else, trust what they have planned for me. I'm not going to come in there with any expectations or feeling like I deserve anything. I'm going to come in there and work for everything. I'm going to buy in to the team and stuff like that because, outside of, I don't really have a lot of personal goals going into college. I just want to, get Duke back on that stage, get Duke back into the Final Four, get us to the ACC championship and stuff like that. So, but
Amen,
I know,
brother. Yeah.
But I know while doing that, though, I'll be, in order for us to do that, I have to play well. And as a team, we got to play well. So, I expect my role to be a big role, but, to also, be within the team.
Paulo, I want to ask you one question about the Final Four this weekend, and I want to bring it back because you mentioned that Gonzaga was one of the schools that you were interested in, and I'm not trying to talk you out of going to Duke and going to Gonzaga, but can you talk to me a little bit about the relationship with them? And I know that you're from up in Seattle, and so Gonzaga is not nearly as far away from you as Duke is, and just the way that Gonzaga's come on this season and how well they've played. What do you attribute that to, and how cool is that?
Yeah, it is cool. Gonzaga, that's a program that I admire. It was like I said, it was one of my top schools. And yeah, it's no surprise that they are where they are. They're really starting to get 5 stars and top players to go there now, which makes them even scarier because they were in the Final Four and they were in the Elite 8 and stuff like that before they were getting 5-star recruits. And yeah, it's a program, man. It's a machine over there. Since Spokane, it's like 5 hours away. It's kind of a small town, but they just they got a formula. Coach Few and the rest of that staff, they're offensive masterminds. They really understand the game, space, and you watch them play. They move the ball. Nobody's playing selfish. And yeah, they're impressive to watch for sure.
You picking them to win it all this weekend?
I got them beating UCLA, but I might have to go with Baylor. I don't know.
All right. Okay.
That's gonna be to the Titans, but we'll see.
We will see. We will see. All right. Well, Paulo, thank you so much for joining us on the Duke Basketball Report podcast. Duke fans, get excited to see this guy in a Duke uniform in a few months. It is going to be a fun season with him, and we look forward to that. So thanks very much for taking the time to chat with us today.
Thank you guys for having me on here.
All right. So thanks again to Paolo Banchero for joining us on the Duke Basketball Report podcast. I think everything you heard from him is exciting. He's going to be a great player, hopefully, for the Blue Devils next season. But I want to get a couple thoughts from you guys on that interview. So, Donald, I'll come to you first. Give me one takeaway or one thing you're excited about after you heard from Paolo Banchero.
The chemistry that he's going to have with Big Mark Williams. He talked a lot about him and how he really, knows him very well, that he talks to him a lot. That chemistry is going to be great. We always talk about the chemistry of the backcourt. We did that last week when Trevor Keels committed to Duke. And he, we recorded this right before that announcement. And so we were able to see after this interview, Paolo Banchero's reaction to Trevor Keels committing, and he seemed excited about that as well. So the chemistry is there, the brotherhood, the brand is strong. I really enjoying that and really looking forward to seeing him on the court. I can't wait to see him on the court.
Jason, I think we heard from a young man who is somewhat wise beyond his years. What did you think of Paolo Banchero?
So the thing I really liked from it was him talking about his interactions with Coach K, and specifically Coach K telling him, play against guards. I thought that was a fascinating thing for Coach K to tell a guy who's obviously a big man. Coach K said, you need to work on, your ball handling, your fundamentals, and playing against guards is the best way to do that. And Paolo told us, his mother has always told him that he needs to play like a guard, that she played in the WNBA, and she taught him proper fundamentals. I think that's all great to hear. And I was also very interested that he said that Coach K was texting him almost every day during the NBA season, talking about NBA games, and that was the way to Paulo's heart.
The bubble works.
Yeah. And Coach K, I guess, figured out, or Coach K also is very interested in the NBA, and that was the way that he had sort of won Paolo over. I thought that was really cool.
Also, I thought what was really cool is that he kind of confirmed what we have suspected and kind of known for years, that Coach K is the closer. That when it comes to the ball game, he said Shire, talks with him, talks to him a lot. He said he talks with all his staff and Nolan Smith, but in the ninth inning is Coach K coming to the mound, and he's got the heat. So I think that was really cool to see kind of how that progresses in the mind of a top recruit. And like you said, Jason, how he said that Coach K interacted with him in a way that other coaches didn't. Just talking about the game and just talking about him being a sponge and learning some of these intricacies of the game and how they were able to kind of vibe on that is a great thing. So it's cool to see how that recruiting process happens from his side of things, from the recruit side of things, and how Coach K kind of fits into that puzzle. It's apparently working.
And we recorded that interview, like we said last week, before Trevor Keels' announcement. And Paolo told you on the show how much he's working on Trevor Keels, and clearly it worked, and that they're excited to be playing together. I think that the point you made, Donald, about how excited Paolo is to play with Mark Williams is great, and dovetails perfectly with what Jason was saying about Paolo playing on the perimeter. College basketball these days is not about having two big men in the post battling for rebounds. It's about one big man max being down there. And we know Mark Williams is going to handle that for Duke. Mark Williams is unlikely to be taking 3-pointers next year, which means that Paolo Banchero is probably going to be taking 3-pointers. We've seen a little bit of that in his highlight reel. We know that he's working on that sort of thing. And I think that should be getting Duke fans excited as we expect to be saying goodbye to Matthew Hurt. Hopefully we've got a bigger, stronger version of him coming in Paolo Banchero next year. But before we go today, I know Jason has a story for us, speaking of recruiting, about a potential transfer that Duke is interested in, or that Duke has made some contact with. Jason, what's the latest on the transfer front?
So the guy I'm talking about is a former player for Furman in the Southern Conference. It is power forward Noah Gurley, 6'8", about 210 pounds, a really nice stretch power forward. He's someone who goes outside and can shoot the 3-pointer really well. Gurley has been both after his sophomore and his junior seasons. He was second team all Southern Conference, about 15 points per game last year, close to 6 rebounds per game. A guy who has pretty good handle. He's known as a good two-way player. I mean, he has a reputation as a very good defender. And he is one of the most high-profile transfers out there in the portal. Duke has been listed among his final 8 finalists. There are a bunch of SEC schools on there. Miami is also on there. Schools like Florida, Marquette, Shaka Smart's been very interested in him, and he's listed Duke as one of his finalists. And the Blue Devils apparently have been after him at least a little bit. We're going to get an announcement from him in the next several days. And I think, first of all, because of the COVID year, wherever he goes, he will have 2 years, which is really nice. And while ordinarily you would think this is a guy who's looking for playing time at a high major program, and playing time is not immediately obvious at Duke for someone like him, because Paolo Banchero and Mark Williams are Duke's bigs, and he would fall in line behind those two guys almost certainly. But but you can see a role for him. And again, because he would have a couple years, I guess you would see sort of a backup role next year and potentially a much larger role in his final year of college. One thing I want to note about him that makes me very interested potentially in Duke landing him is he took a redshirt year, his first year he was at Furman. He's already 21. He'll be 22 later this summer. So this is a guy who would be, 22, 23, almost 24 years old in his 2 years at Duke, a man who could really, help teach Duke's young boys how to play at this level. I think he's a very intriguing prospect, and I'm hoping that Duke is successful in the transfer portal. I want Duke to get to 10 recruited players. We're currently at most of the expectations are that we're going to be at 8 because Matthew Hurt's probably going to leave. And in fact, this other sort of note about Gurley is the fact that Duke is going hard after Gurley, I think tells you some things about Matthew Hurt, because I don't think we'd be pursuing him if we thought Matthew Hurt was coming back to Duke. It doesn't make sense from a roster construction standpoint to bring in a guy like Gurley as your 4th big man. And so I feel like the fact that Duke is after him tells you a lot about how Duke feels about whether or not Matthew Hurt's going to be going to the NBA draft.
Donald, any thoughts on Gurley or the rest of Duke's current recruiting situation?
Yeah, I think with Gurley, you bring in a couple of things that we were lacking, off the bench, a guy who's a stretch 4. We've seen with Matthew Hurt, Jason, you mentioned that this would be kind of a similar style of player, but having that off the bench is great because that is a dynamic that a lot of people don't have on their bench, a stretch 4 who can come out to the perimeter and shoot and draw out a big man so that the floor is spaced wide open. So having that off the bench would be great. And the other thing that was missing from this team last year was leadership, experience. Like you said, this guy's 21 going on 22. He's going to have a lot of experience. He'll bring that leadership style quality and be able to teach some guys just how to play in college. He may not be able to teach a guy how to play Duke basketball. He's going to learn that on his own, but he will be able to teach guys what it's going to take to prepare and excel in college. And I think having that leadership is something that every championship team has, having that leadership, having that experience. He could be one of those guys, even if it's in a bench role, coming off the bench and being a spark plug for 5 to 10 minutes at a time. If we have that on our team, that's a market improvement from what we had coming off our bench last year with a little bit more experience. So I think those 2 qualities are a great thing to have. And I think that's why he's being pursued.
So we will keep an eye on that. We'll keep an eye, of course, on Matthew Hurt and any other news coming out of Duke. As we mentioned yesterday, coming up later this week, the 2nd episode of Return to Glory, the story of the 2001 championship team that the podcast series that Jason has been working so tirelessly on the last few months. So you'll get that. Stay in touch with us. Don't forget DBR Podcast at gmail.com. Any of your questions or comments. We've gotten a lot of great content on that front recently. And we still have the survey open. Like we said, that there's not necessarily a time when we're going to close it. So, and we see that folks are still trickling in to answer questions for us. tinyurl.com/DBR podcast survey. All of your thoughts about the Duke Basketball Report podcast, you can send to us in an anonymized form. So that is great. But until next time, for Jason Evans and for Donald Wine, I am Sam Klein. This has been episode 305, shout out to Miami, of the Duke Basketball Report podcast. Duke Band, take us home. Sorry in advance. I think I'm like getting hit by allergies right now. So I feel disgusting at the moment, and maybe I'm going to make some gross sneezing sounds, but we'll see.
Hey, that's got nothing. I just got my 2nd vaccine shot about 2 hours ago.
Oh, no. So you're going to pass out in the middle of this? Yeah.
Godspeed, sir.
All right, here we go.
Paolo, how are you, sir?
Good.
What's going on, man?
I got to tell you, man, I'm surprised. We're used to seeing you with more hair.
Yeah, what happened to the hair?
Yeah, I just felt like cutting it off. I've been growing it out for like 2 years. and it was starting to dread and some more. I didn't take good care of it. Usually it's curly, but I didn't take good care of it, so it was dreaded. And then I just decided to cut it. But by the time I'm playing for Duke, though, it should be. I have some hair back on my.
I was
head.
gonna say because the
There you
last
go.
few years we've gotten used to Duke guys having cool hair. So don't ruin that for us.
Dude, not that you look bad. You look great.